Chris Lee and Blake Lovell here to preview Texas A&M's road trip to Alabama. That starts noon Eastern. You can catch that on ESPN on Saturday. The Crimson Tide, about a 10 to 12-point favorite, we believe, based on what we're seeing on Bart Torvik and Ken Pomeroy, probably closer to 10 or maybe a little bit lower. We'll see when the line actually comes out. Two teams having interesting seasons. A&M, I thought I knew where this season was going after it beat Tennessee in pretty convincing fashion last Saturday. Then A&M goes to Vanderbilt, loses one at the buzzer. Alabama has not lost a home game in Tuscaloosa since losing to Clemson early in the year. The Crimson Tide can run and score at the best of them. So very interesting contrast of styles. We'll get into some of the details here momentarily, but a reminder, our content presented by our friends at BetOnline, which continues to be your number one source for all your basketball wagering needs, including pro and college hoops throughout the year. With up-to-the-minute odds, stats, trends, you can follow your favorite team's path to the playoffs with in-game live betting contests and all the best player props. Experience the world's best wagering platform anytime from your desktop or mobile devices. Head to BetOnline today. Become part of the team. Remember to use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, the game starts here. Well, Blake, two teams that are going to be very contrasting in styles. A&M can kind of grind you a little bit. We have spoken often about the Aggies' tendency to really just kill it on the backboards. Alabama, a team that just likes to run and score, and particularly at home. Alabama's now had, 6-7 games over 100 points. I don't think that's the kind of game that A&M can afford to get into and hope to pull an upset. Yeah, your thoughts on this one?
Well, you talk about two teams that are on opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of three-point shooting. Yeah, it's these two, and that's why I think this is like one of those games where if Alabama comes out making shots early, like this could get out of hand, right? Just because you don't feel like A&M could shoot their way back into it. The problem is I don't know that it is going to be one where Alabama is just going to come out and do that because although it's always possible. It's like anytime anyone plays at home in the SEC, you want to just say, you know what, throw everything you think you know out of the way and just look at what are the strengths of the home team and how could they just completely come out and decimate the road team. Now, of course, the Arkansas-Tennessee game was the exception in the midweek, but that was for many different reasons. It was kind of based on where Arkansas is at. But Alabama's just a different beast. And, we just saw Texas A&M going up against the Tennessee team that got up and down the floor. And A&M just, did fine, right? But Alabama just takes it to another level. And I think, when you look at, again, just how Alabama likes to play, it's, as you said, just a contrast to how A&M wants to play. And so, it's the same thing. It's just can A&M dictate this game the way they want to do it? I mean, for Alabama, I think defensively it's pretty simple here. Force A&M to make plays from the perimeter outside the lane and box out. Like that's what you got to do. Like, because you don't want them to have the strengths, which is what we know is getting to the free throw line for A&M. We say it all the time. Like, that is a big strength for this team. But, if you look at Alabama and where they allow the most points, right, they don't allow a ton at the free throw line. And so we've said that in other games we talked about before. And so I just feel like this is, one of those spots, like I said, where we'll look a little bit more into this matchup, but I'm talking about one of those games that can get out of hand. If Alabama's shooting the ball well early and A&M is not able to kind of defend the way they need to defend against this Alabama team, like this game could get, one where Alabama pushes this thing out to a big lead and maybe holds on because, I feel like you're still playing a guessing game with what you're going to get from A&M offensively. Even though, you could look at the last – actually, now that I think about it, they just came off the road loss at Vanderbilt where they went 8 of 18 from three, which was better. But again, Vanderbilt is just they lost the game, but like statistically, it's a different game. Like, it's just, you're not that's why I would say it's hard to replicate what Alabama does, and we've seen the reason for that this season. There's so many teams can't do that once they get into the game, and all that to say, this is really tough for Texas A&M. Sorry, let's make it simple. This is a tough road game at Coleman Coliseum here.
Well, look, when we preview these games, some of them were close, and we'll give you a more balanced take. And when a game is going to have a spread in double digits or along those lines, and the team that's the favorite is at home, we have to squint a little bit and give you reasons why there could be an upset. And that's kind of how we structure the previews. And I'll just put it to you simply. Alabama's got a bunch of guys that could give you 15 on a given night. Sears, Estrada, Nelson, Griffin, Wrightsell at a minimum. And there's another guy or two there that could pop up at any given time. But those guys are the guys that, like, if I said they're all going to score 15 points or more, or 3 or 4 of them are whatever, you wouldn't be surprised at all. A&M, it kind of comes down to Wade Taylor. And let me just give you some of Taylor's scoring numbers in games this season because it's pretty remarkable. He got, let's see, 30 against Ole Miss, 41 against Arkansas, 31 against Kentucky, 34 against Houston, 35 against Florida Atlantic. And there's several of the games where he was in the 20, but you get the point. Wade Taylor's a guy that can give you 30 to 40 points on a given night against anybody, and he did it against Houston, so you can really do it against anybody. The wild card for A&M has been Tyrese Radford, who we thought was playing better. He's had breathing issues. Now he's gotten better. I thought this team was turning a corner because Radford was playing better, and sure enough, he got, 14 at Vandy. He got 17 at Vandy, didn't play badly. Well, they got beat because the game on the backboards was more competitive than we would have thought. And we know about A&M shooting after that. Okay, I've given you a long way to say the way for A&M to beat Alabama is to get huge games out of those two guards and have Alabama maybe have a little bit of an off night shooting. But my question is, how does Alabama match up with Wade Taylor? Because he's not a big guy at all. He's under 6 feet tall. You keep thinking, well, you can put a big guy on him and you can slow him down. That's been tried and failed. And so that to me is the path to victory if you're A&M, is have Wade Taylor do Wade Taylor things and then maybe hope some other things fall your way otherwise.
Well, Taylor had 28 against them last year, and if you think about this, and what's really interesting is you always say if you're A&M in this spot, you got to have more than just the two guys step up, right? Well, guess what? Last year, I don't know if you remember this, Chris, Alabama got beat by 3 guys on A&M, and that was it. The last game of the regular season, right? 67-61. Taylor had 28. Bradford had 21. Dexter Dennis had 11.
Dexter Dennis.
No one else had over. There were only 3 other guys that scored. Henry Coleman was the leader in that category with 4. So essentially, they did have Wade Taylor beat them last year and Tyrese Radford. Like, that combination beat Alabama last year. Guess what? Here's the difference. Alabama, I think, is just as good as that team was last year. Number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. To me, this team is on another level offensively. And I don't know that you just are going to be able to have those 2 guys beat you this year, because I don't think it's going to be 67-61. If it is, hey, that means A&M is playing the exact game that they want to play, and they're going to have a shot to win. But we've just seen so many times with Alabama, they force you to play the way they want you to play. And outside of what really, we knew the road game in Auburn was a tough spot. We knew the road game in Tennessee was a tough spot. But everybody else has had to play their way. And South Carolina, to a certain extent, they held them to 74. But, when you think about it overall, still, right? I mean, it's just one of those things where they were so good defensively, it didn't matter. They didn't have to score 90 in that game. Could be similar in this one. Like, could you see A&M scoring 47 here? Probably going to score more than that. I mean, I think Taylor and Radford will combine to get more than 47. But that's just the question, is who's going to step up, around those guys. And they've got options, but it's just to beat Alabama, I'm going to say the same thing. you got to keep up with them scoring wise.
Yeah.
And who's been able to do that really, other than the teams that have beaten them? Like they've out. Auburn had to get 99. Like they won by 18 or whatever. I don't remember what it was. Alabama still got 81 in that game, and so. But those are different teams. Auburn and Tennessee are much different than Texas A&M. They've been way more consistent. They haven't dropped a road game at Vanderbilt. And so for all the good we saw from A&M against Tennessee, they gave a lot of that away at Vanderbilt. Now they got to go on the road and play the team that's leading the SEC. I would expect them to play better and bounce back, but even if they do, you're still playing Alabama at home, who's just been really, really good.
Yeah, the problem is a third scoring threat. You name one of the names it would have to be. It's Henry Coleman, the third. But Coleman had been a non-factor scoring-wise for almost a month. I mean, he did get 13 at Vandy. They lost that one anyway. Before that, his scoring had been 2 against Tennessee, 8 against Missouri, none against Florida, 7 against Ole Miss. So he's a guy that, I think, I don't know, before the season, he was probably, if you're naming your top 20 guys in the SEC, you could make a case he's on the list. He's just disappeared. I just don't think outside of Anderson Garcia grabbing 24 rebounds and getting some cheap stickbacks, I just don't think A&M's got enough firepower outside those 2 top guards to hang with Alabama in that building. And so my pick is going to be Alabama.
Yeah, I'll pick Alabama too. I think A&M's path to victory is very simple. It's you got to play defense. You can't let this be a high-scoring game. You got to play it your way. You can't do the Tennessee thing. You're not expecting to score 85 here or something. You have to make this a grind. You have to make Alabama play defense. For a lot, like 20 seconds or so. Like that's how you have to play it, and you certainly got to make sure your playmakers are in the right position to make plays. Like you got to give Taylor and Radford every opportunity to score points here, and just hope that other guys step up around them offensively. Defensively, Buzz is a great coach. I'm sure he'll have a great game plan in terms of how he wants to defend this Alabama team. I don't know exactly what it's going to be, but I'm sure he's got something that he's trying to work up here to figure out how to stop them. And, of course, it goes back to the offensive rebounding. I mean, if you are A&M, knowing you're probably not going to shoot it as well on the road as you do at home sometimes, you got to get those offensive rebounds. But Alabama's also pretty good at that. And can Alabama, again, box out, not let A&M have 100 second chance opportunities because they're good enough to get 20 in a game. If they do that, Alabama wins, and I'll pick the Tide here.
All right, thanks for watching. We'll recap this either Saturday night or Sunday morning. Best way to get it, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. He's Blake Lovell. I'm Chris Lee. We are Southeastern 14, presented by BetOnline.